He's won the Prix d'Ouest, the foremost recognition in Western art. In 2010, he received the Briscoe Legacy Award, and in 2016, the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Society of Animal Artists. Then, in 2017, the Carl Milesgarden Museum in Stockholm, Sweden, hosted a retrospective show with 42 Ullberg sculptures. Of course, I'm speaking about our guest who is seated here in the studio, world-renowned sculptor Kent Ullberg, who can now add Rockport Art Festival Master Artist to his title of honors. Welcome, Kent.
Thank you very much.
Listeners, I want you to know that he's asked me to call him that. I feel like I should be calling you like Sir Ullberg or something. His lovely wife, Virla, is here in the studio with us as well. She's sitting quietly here in the studio. We're just honored to have them here. You should have seen the staff when they entered. I said if we had a red velvet carpet, we would have put it down. We are so excited to have you here. I know you've told your story so many times, but I'd love my listeners to hear how you came to the United States and Texas after growing up in Sweden.
It's a bit of a long story. First of all, I studied in the University College of Art in Stockholm. I grew up in a fishing village. Then I moved to the mainland and then to Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. But this was in the 60s. And after the first year of classical training, we sculpted from models. We were supposed to do our own thing. And I sculpted kind of a stylized bear. My teacher said, "What is this?" "It's a bear, sir. It's supposed to be your own thing." "It is my own thing, sir. It's not the language of our time." And he was right. In the 60s, it was abstract expressionism and stuff. But I was a romantic kid from a fishing village. And he said, "You never make a living sculpting animals." And I believed him, so I went the museum route. And I became a museum apprentice in the National Natural History Museum in Stockholm. And I studied there, and then I became a taxidermist. And modern taxidermists, they sculpt animals and make a mold, and then stick the skin to the mold, so it's not stuffing, And also I wanted to get certified so I studied in Germany. I don't speak German fluently because I did all my exams in German. I got my diploma from a German university. I worked in a museum in France too, so I traveled a little all over. But while I was in Germany, they told me that there was somebody in Africa wanted somebody to teach the new safari companies the field skinning of the trophies. And I dreamt of Africa. I read Hemingway in Swedish as a kid and a naturalist, And so I answered yes, and I had to take a boat across to England and practice my English very hard all the time on the travel. And somehow I managed to convince them, and they sent me a ticket to visit Botswana. And I love Botswana. I was there for 7 years. And after the first 3 years in the safari business, the Botswana's Natural History Museum, the chief game warden of Botswana, Alec Campbell, has started a new museum of Nature and Science and Art. And he hired me as a curator to help build the museum. I created dioramas, I painted murals, I trained, and then, of course, main thing was to train Africans. Botswana just got independence from Britain, and they had no trained people in that kind of field. So I was training Africans and learning Setswana, of course, and speaking languages. But then, after about 7 years, Denver Museum of Nature and Science came on an expedition, and they were to collect the animals for the African exhibit. They're building a new big African hall. And I became the field guide, of course, take care of them in the bush, shooting the dangerous animals for them. And we spent weeks together in the field, along campfires in the evenings. And I got to like Americans. They were really friendly and fun. And when they left, the director of the museum board, wealthy man in Denver, left money for a ticket for me to visit Denver as a thank you. And I visited Denver. First place I set foot was in Denver, and I fell in love. They took me up in the mountains with cowboy bars, with sawdust on the floor. There were Buffalo Bill's grave. There were bison herds on Lookout Mountain. I was sold. But the main thing is that Western art was underway, with realism, with animal sculpting and stuff like that. So when they offered me the job to supervise the building of the African exhibit, I said yes. And the rest is history. I exhibited at the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and after 2 years of working in the museum, I jumped off the bridge to do my sculptures full time. And I lived my dream ever since. And I'm so bloody grateful to America, to this country, where I can live my dream. I've lived my dream here ever since. I'm the most grateful American in the world.
We are so grateful, Kent, that you followed your heart and you followed what you really wanted to create, which is beautiful animal-related art. It has blessed so many, myself personally as well, because my home church is First United Methodist Church of Corpus Christi, with your sculpture called It Is I, of Jesus in the boat, facing Corpus Christi Bay. And we just are so fortunate to have that and so many of your sculptures. So you've installed more than 100 public sculptures in the U.S. and around the world, but the Coastal Bend is fortunate enough to have almost a quarter of them, including Rockport Center for the Arts. And you have several sculptures over there, and you just added a new one.
Yes. Well, I have a big exhibition there. They created a beautiful new art center, just a fantastic art center. And it's shocking, because I've been part of the Rockport art scene for 40 years and exhibited in a little wooden shack that we call the Rockport Art Center. But we exhibited together, and there were well-known plein air painters and fishing guys, and we had a great time together. And then it got blown out, and we thought that was the end of it. That was the end of the art scene in Rockport. And in comes Louis Perron,
Yes.
a bloody magician.
Such
And
a vision.
He created the art center with his vision, and of course with patrons and the government help. He knew how to pull every trigger. It is an incredible art center, 2 city blocks wide, and it supports all the art forms, visual arts, and of course concerts, and also culinary art too and stuff. So I'm very, very impressed. And then they let me have an exhibition there, which is on right now until August 6th in the main gallery, the HEB gallery upstairs. He has galleries on 2 levels. It's just super impressive. You have to see it. Absolutely.
It is a beautiful facility, and it's even more beautiful because they have your Maritime Romance, which is the seahorse pair, and then the Rites of Spring, which are 2 whooping cranes, and then the Preening Heron, a 5-foot-tall bird. I printed out a picture of that. Tell me about this newest piece.
And the newest piece is going to be a kingfisher, and it's part of the exhibition right now, and it's 5'3" tall. Anonymous donor bought it to be placed in the sculpture garden by the new buildings, and we're going to install it as soon as the show is over. We've already worked on the site, and they're going to put a foundation and all that kind of stuff, to make it hurricane-proof. So I'm really honored, of course.
So your pieces are large. When you have an exhibit, are they the smaller mock-ups? Is that what will be on show? What will be on display at your exhibit?
Bit of everything. They're called maquette.
Maquette.
Which is model in French, And but many of them are just on their own. I do little sculptures too, wherever I feel like. I do little birds, I do everything. And I also want to say that, I've done a lot of people portraits and stuff. I did that too, especially not when I couldn't sell my wildlife sculptures. I did Botswana's president, for example, and stuff like that, And what an honor for me to do the namesake of my hometown, Corpus Christi. We've lived here now for more than 45 years, and I got to do the namesake. That was a great honor. I loved that job. That was fantastic.
Well, I love how many of your sculptures have hidden subjects within them, and you can just stand there and then something will suddenly just present itself to your eye. How is your process of creation? I know that it takes a lot of planning.
I normally don't sculpt anything that I haven't experienced. So I normally see some animal. I'm a diver. I dive all around the world. I've dove at the Great Barrier Reef and everywhere. And I see something that inspires me. And I just start fiddling, playing with clay. I never grew up. I still play with clay. And I fiddle and fiddle. Then I get ideas to change things. And also, I did have an abstract training. So sometimes I used some abstraction, but still full realism. But I look at the shapes the animals can do. And sometimes I even take liberty and do totally stylized abstract, like the kingfisher is quite stylized, for example. So it takes a while sometimes to sculpt a monument. Some monuments take almost a year to complete.
And you have pieces all over Corpus. You have pieces downtown. You have a piece heading to the island. You have a beautiful piece. One of my most favorites of your pieces is the UT Marine Science Institute, which is a perfect example of all the hidden subjects within.
Oh, God, yes. That actually is a tarpon, because Port Aransas used to be called Tarpon, Texas, so tarpon is great. It's a perfect tarpon externally with the right fins and stuff. But then built into it is 50 species of marine life.
50, wow.
And it has everything from microscopic creatures to mammals, to dolphins and even some humpback whales on the base. And then I have a crab signing my name, holding a brush.
I'm going to have to drive back out there just to look for that specifically.
But the idea was too, of course, it's Marine Science Center. So, it's interdependence, which means every creature is dependent on the environment, on each other, including us as mammals, And I wanted the teacher there at Marine Science Institute to teach the student and to see what they can find. I haven't heard of one that I found them all yet. But the teachers have a cheat list, of the species, of course.
I'm going to have to get a copy of that. Do you always have the next project in mind? What is next? More sculpting, more travel? What would you like to do at this stage?
First of all, of course, we have to install that sculpture in Rockport and get the exhibition done. And there's some more sculptures probably too that's going to be placed and stuff. And then I have to sculpt my new piece, next piece, and keep working. I don't have any commissions right now on the back burner, but I'm going to go to Colorado to my studio there and work, as I normally do. Something might come up, and normally something comes up. Otherwise, I also exhibit in a lot of exhibitions. Prix de West at Cabo Hall of Fame, National Sculpture Society in New York, National Academy in New York, Autry Museum in California. They have annual exhibitions. So I always have to new pieces for their shows. So I'm never really not busy, I'm always working. And I play with clay. I never grew up, so what the hell,
We are so excited that you answered your heart and your soul to bring these beautiful pieces to not just South Texas, not just Rockport Center for the Arts, but to the world. Thank you for sharing your gifts, and we look forward to seeing what's next. And listeners, if you just Google Kent Ullberg, that's Ullberg, sculptor, you will see his beautiful work. Thank you so much for coming and giving of your time, speaking with us. It's just a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you very much for having me here. I love this station, as you know. It means a lot to me. I was part of it from the very beginning.
Yes, we appreciate that.
And the classical music plays in my studio every day when I sculpt. And it goes from my ears to my hands. Yeah, I'm grateful for your presence.
We appreciate you and Virla supporting the station, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you very much.
I've been speaking with master sculptor Kent Ullberg about his current exhibition going on at Rockport Center for the Arts.